Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Enjoy your time by subscribe and like. In 2009, I was studying abroad. I rented an apartment with a few fellow American, British students. The apartment was on the 12th floor, with 3 bedrooms and a living room. A couple lived in the main bedroom, and another guy and I each had a secondary bedroom. My room was next to the bathroom. There was a very small window in the bathroom, facing the building's inner courtyard. Since we were all classmates, we got along very well, and we trusted each other a lot. So, at night, we'd just close our doors without locking them. One night, I suddenly woke up alone. I opened my eyes and saw my grandfather sitting by my bed, smiling at me. I immediately realized it must be a dream, because I was abroad, and my grandfather had passed away several years ago. He was wearing a turtleneck sweater. He seemed very lively and looked as thin as he did when he was alive. I wasn't scared at all. In fact, I felt very happy. I asked him, "Grandpa, why are you here?" Grandpa smiled and said, "My granddaughter came such a long way. Grandpa was worried, so I came to check on you." After he said that, he suddenly stopped smiling and slowly turned his head toward the direction of my door. At that moment, the doorknob was turned slightly, and then the door slowly opened. Instinctively, I asked, "Who is it?" The door immediately shut. I was startled. By then, Grandpa had disappeared. I felt a bit panicked, not sure if I was still dreaming. Then I realized I couldn't move. I wasn't sure if I was still dreaming. Then I realized I couldn't move at all. I felt like something was pressing down on me. I struggled to call out my roommate's name, but no sound came out. With all my strength, I finally managed a faint cry for help. Just as I did, the door suddenly opened. My roommates rushed in. The moment I saw them, I could move again. I quickly sat up. I was about to tell them what had happened, but they spoke first. They asked, "Were you just in the living room?" I was stunned. After asking, I found out they had heard noises in the living room first. It sounded like someone was sneaking around. It didn't seem right. They went out to check and then heard my voice, so they came in quickly. I told them. It seemed like someone was trying to open my door. Everyone felt uneasy. I followed my roommates out of the room and into the living room. They said they had all heard it. Movement in the living room. But after checking everywhere, no one was there, nothing. Then we realized there was one place we hadn't checked, the bathroom. The bathroom door was closed. It had frosted glass, so we couldn't see inside. One of the braver guys went over, turned the handle, and found it was locked. The bathroom door could only be locked from the inside, but all of us were now in the living room. So who was in the bathroom? To be safe, we didn't try to force the door open. Instead, we decided to call the police. When the police arrived, they listened to our account, then went over and kicked the door open. The bathroom was empty, but the window was wide open. They shone their flashlight into the courtyard and found many climbing marks outside. They came back from the bathroom and said it was likely a thief who had climbed in through the bathroom window. When discovered, they must have escaped the same way. They asked us to check if anything was missing. They also said that several break-ins had happened recently in the area and advised us to stay safe. Thankfully, after checking, we found nothing was stolen. My roommate was quite shaken. Who would have thought someone could climb up to the 12th floor? It was terrifying in hindsight. After that, we locked the small bathroom window and never opened it again. Since then, we've kept it locked permanently. To this day, I can't quite tell if I was truly awake or if it was just a dream that night. Perhaps Grandpa really came to visit, to protect me. Besides this, there was another small event. Not scary, but very heartwarming. One year during vacation, I returned home. After adapting to foreign food, coming home was a chance to savor familiar flavors. I particularly craved fried dough sticks in the mornings, but the street vendors had been removed over the years, and fried dough was hard to come by. For a week, my mom tried to find some, but they were nowhere to be found. One night, I had a dream. In the dream, I was in my room, and it was already morning. Sunlight streamed through the curtains. I saw my grandma, who had passed away years ago, sitting by my bed, smiling at me. She murmured, "It's strange your mom couldn't get any." She said, "My granddaughter just wants fried dough and can't even get that." Then I woke up. The room looked exactly as it did in my dream, except Grandma wasn't there. Just then, I heard my mom gently knock on my door. She peeked in with a half smile. "Guess what I've got here?" she asked. In her hand, she held several fried dough sticks. She smiled and said, "Finally got them today." I was taken aback. A mix of surprise, warmth, and a sense of being deeply loved filled my heart. That's it for today's story. Save the best for the last. See you all next time. Around the early 2000s, there was an old man in our village, around 60 years old, who was drinking at someone's house. He drank until around 11 p.m., and then he was about to head home. Suddenly, he remembered his cattle pen at the foot of the hill. The pen wasn't far from the village water channel. The water there was very deep, and a cow had drowned there that very day. This thought worried him. He insisted on going to check on the pen. The people he was drinking with tried to persuade him, saying he was clearly drunk, and it was so dark outside. They told him, "Forget the cows. What if you fall into the water yourself?" But he didn't listen at all, insisting on going. Seeing he wouldn't be stopped, he set off along the water channel toward the pen. But the night was pitch dark, and he was very drunk. He took a wrong step, and he actually fell into the channel. Fortunately, there happened to be someone nearby who heard the noise and rushed over to save him. After pulling him out, they learned he was heading out to lock the cattle pen. That person advised him not to go, but he was stubborn. He didn't listen at all. Today, of all days, he just had to go. In the end, he made it to the pen at the foot of the hill and successfully locked it. No cows escaped. He finally felt relieved. He started walking along the channel back home, but he slipped, and with a splash, he fell into the water channel again. This time, no one noticed him. The next day, people found his body at a drainage point, 2 kilometers away. Everyone in the village knew about this incident. People felt it was such a shame, wondering why he was so stubborn. He fell once and was saved, yet that wasn't enough. He just couldn't be stopped. At the time, I was still in elementary school. During winter, around 6:30 a.m. each morning, it was still dark outside. My friend would come to my house to call for me, and we'd head to school together. By the time we reached school, it was usually getting light. That day, my mom said to me, "Every time you wait for someone to call you, why can't you get up a bit earlier?" I thought about it and agreed. So I set an alarm for 6 a.m., planning to wake up early and go call for him. Then I went to bed early that night. The alarm went off. I quickly got up and dressed, put on my backpack, and went downstairs. Just as I was about to head out, my dad called me back. He asked where I was going. I said, "To school, of course." He said, "What school are you going to at 12:30? I was completely confused. I looked at the clock in the living room, and it really was 12:30. I said I must have set the alarm wrong. My dad laughed at me a bit. When I went back to my room, sure enough, I had set the alarm wrong. I couldn't be bothered to fix it, so I just tossed it aside, lay back down, and went to sleep. The next time I woke up, it was 5 a.m. I felt really refreshed. I couldn't go back to sleep. So I got dressed and went downstairs. I sat in the living room, planning to wait until 6 a.m. before going to call my friend. But the time passed so slowly while I waited. I got a bit impatient, so I just headed out. When I got to my friend's house, I called out a few times, but there was no response. I realized I must have come too early. He wasn't awake yet. Feeling a bit dejected, I started heading back home. As I reached my doorstep, I remembered how my mom had said I always waited for others to call me, and how I was always sleeping in. So I decided to go to school on my own today. I decided to leave right then. Walking through the village, it wasn't too dark. I even met a few aunties on their way to pick vegetables. They greeted me, saying, "Why are you heading to school so early today?" I smiled and made some small talk, then continued on my way. When I reached the edge of the village, the road leading out was pitch black. I realized the village wasn't dark because of the streetlights. I started to feel a bit scared, but turning back now would mean the aunties might laugh at me. So I kept going, trying to stay brave. After walking for a while, I was getting farther from the village. The surroundings were getting darker. Not far away was the water channel. I was utterly terrified. I kept my head down and kept walking forward. What normally took less than half an hour felt unusually long at that moment. Then, suddenly, I heard someone calling my nickname from behind. Only people familiar with me in the village called me that. I turned around and saw a person standing by the side of the road. He was facing away from me, wearing an army green hat. He was dressed in a blue work uniform and had green pants to match. His whole outfit looked old and worn, with his sleeves and pants rolled up, as if he had just finished some work. I found it strange, because I didn't know him. How did he know my nickname? I asked him, "Who are you?" But he didn't answer. He just kept facing away from me. I felt even more scared. There was still a long way to the school ahead, so I thought of turning back, but he was standing right by the road behind me. Fortunately, the road was wide. I kept close to the other side, walking past him on my way back to the village. When I got directly behind him, I realized I couldn't see his body. To put it simply, he looked like an invisible person. Underneath the old clothes, there was nothing, only an endless, dark void. Then he spoke again, in a low, slow voice, saying, "Come with me, come with me, come with me." His voice sounded like it came from a deep abyss. I was terrified. I turned and ran, not daring to look back. After running a short distance, my backpack felt like it weighed a ton. I just threw it off, and even took off my thick down jacket. I ran as fast as I could. I had a strong feeling that thing was right behind me. But this burst of speed quickly drained my energy. Just as I was about to run out of strength, I saw two beams of light ahead. It was a car. I started to slow down. The car honked as it passed me. After the car went by, I finally gathered the courage to look back. As the car's taillights faded into the distance, there was nothing behind me. The surroundings fell into darkness again. I couldn't think about it any longer. Dragging my tired legs, I started running again. Finally, I reached the edge of the village. I saw my friend, wearing his backpack, walking toward me. I ran to him and hugged him, starting to cry. I told him everything that had happened. He comforted me, saying I must have imagined it. By then, the sky was starting to brighten. I gathered my courage and walked to school with him. On the way, I picked up my discarded down jacket and backpack. After school that day, I didn't dare to tell my family about it. But from that day on, no matter what my mom said to me, I never got up early again. I always waited for my friend to come and call me to go to school. Some time later, a lot of beggars came to our village. They were said to have wandered in from elsewhere. After they arrived, things started disappearing in the village. People began to resent them, yelling and throwing stones whenever they saw them. They chased them all away. But one of them remained. No matter how they cursed at him or tried to beat him, he wouldn't leave. I felt sorry for him, so I secretly took a steamed bun to him. He was momentarily stunned when he took it. Then tears fell down his face. He said thank you in a dialect I didn't recognize and walked toward the edge of the village. After a few days, another well-known incident occurred. The beggar was found dead. He had also drowned. His body was found in the water channel. People in the village were shocked, and that was the end of the tale. See you all in the next episode.